Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and I'm here tonight with my first impressions of the Hifiman Isvarna, and I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, this headphone was loaned to me by Hifiman for review, and it currently sells for $2,899. That is in US dollars. This is a wired, full-size, over-the-ear, hybrid dual driver headphone. I'll get more into that in a minute, but this headphone is the first headphone that I've reviewed, and I've probably reviewed 40, maybe 50 headphones by now that actually uses two drivers in each ear cup. And it uses both a planar magnetic driver, which is typical of Hifiman, and it uses a dynamic driver, which is actually working as a subwoofer. And these headphones actually have a tiny little crossover, electronic crossover inside of these to separate the frequencies and run the higher frequencies to the planar magnetic driver and the low frequencies to the subwoofer. I'm not sure if there's a cutoff where certain frequencies don't go into the planar magnetic. Maybe all the frequencies go into that, but it's only allowing the low frequencies to go into the subwoofer. So this headphone has an impedance of 16 ohms and a sensitivity of 93 decibels at 1 milliwatt. So it's actually pretty easy to drive. I would say it's somewhere around like the Aria Organic, Aria Stealth, something like that. Real easy for a planar magnetic headphone, but a little bit harder than most dynamic driver headphones. Hifiman claims a weight of 462 grams. According to my kitchen scale, it weighed in at 460 grams, so we're only 2 grams apart. So I think that's pretty accurate. This headphone comes with 3 detachable cables, and it uses standard Hifiman and most other companies now are using 3.5 millimeter connections at the headphone end, and then it has 3 cables, and all 3 are nice cloth covered cables. Probably the nicest cables I've seen from Hifiman so far. I think these are the same as what comes with this Isvarna. And the first cable, and this is about 10 feet long or 3 meters, has a 6.3 millimeter single-ended plug at the amp end. Then you get a cable, also cloth covered, nice and soft, 3.5, and then you've got a full-size 4-pin XLR on this at the amp end. And then it comes with the third cable. This one's shorter, probably about 5 feet or about 1.5 meters, and this is used to use with a portable device. It has a 3.5 millimeter connection at the amp end, or to plug into your portable device with a 90-degree angle, and then once again your 3.5. But 3 very nice cables with this. So Hifiman hasn't had a reputation of providing the nicest cables, but they are getting better, especially with their high-end headphones. So anyway, I also wanted to show you that this headphone actually, well, let me set this aside. This actually comes with a very nice case, similar to what the Isvarna and the Isvarna Unveiled come in. Pretty solid case and very nice, very plush inside. And so this does come with the case, and like the Isvarna, this also comes with a hardcover book that tells you all about the headphone inside. So pretty fancy stuff here. So anyway, let me give you a closer up look at this headphone. And the first thing you'll notice about this is it's kind of an unusual design, and the ear cups are wider in back, and you can see vents for the subwoofers on the back. So it's real easy to spot this headphone. The headband, I'll start with that, is the same as what's on the 1000 series and the Isvarna and Isvarna Unveiled. You've got a stainless steel headband with a, not sure, it feels like suede leather strap on here. I'm not sure if it's real leather or not, or if it's a synthetic material. You've got little aluminum sliders on here, then your yokes are aluminum and they swivel like this, and the headphones or the ear cups swivel like this. The ear cups themselves, I think these are aluminum. It sounds and feels like aluminum to me. I don't think those are plastic. And then, like I said, you've got your vents on the back for your subwoofers, and then you've got your 3.5 millimeter connections on the bottom, and you can see that the ear pads are tapered. And in the little book, it says that the outer part of the ear pads is leather. I'm not sure if it's a actual real leather or if it's a synthetic leather, but it is real soft, feels nice, and you got more of a felt material on the inside, and but actually a very comfortable headphone. I actually find it more comfortable than the egg-shaped headphones from Hifiman, you know, like the Arias and the 1000 series and all that have the taller egg-shaped ear cups on them, and those actually can, because they ride low on my jaw, they can actually irritate my jaw. I have a little bit of TMJ actually on the right side here, and the round ear cups I actually find more comfortable, and that's a reason I really like this Isvarna, because of the round ear cups. So anyway, before I get into the sound of this, I wanted to mention the equipment I used reviewing this so far, and this is just my first impression, so I haven't got too carried away yet with trying this with different amp stacks and that sort of thing, but my source is my Shanling ET3 CD transport that only puts out a digital signal. It does not have a built-in DAC or, you know, put out an analog signal. So anyway, I've run that into the Hifiman Serenade combination amp DAC, which you can see right here, which works really well with this headphone. And also, I tried it with the Topping D70S MQA DAC, which happens to be my favorite Topping DAC that I've heard so far. I even prefer it over the more expensive D90. And the Audio GD R8 MK2 R2R DAC, and I think you can see that sitting up here. It's huge. It's 17 inches square and weighs about 26 pounds, something like that. Anyway, not the best measuring DAC in the world, but I love the way it sounds, and the Topping is just the opposite. You can probably see that sitting over here. The Topping actually measures exceptionally well, one of the best measuring DACs ever, and they do have a similar sound, but the Audio GD actually has a much wider sound stage. So anyway, and then amps that I've tried this with, I've tried it with the Wells Audio V8, which is an OTL tube amp sitting right here that actually works very well with planar magnetic headphones, even really hard to drive planar magnetic headphones like this Isvarna and the Isvarna Unveiled. And then also the Waveborn Power Amp Plus, which is a transformer coupled tube amp that is sitting on the end of this shelf in the red down there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not sure. I've got a little screen on my camera and I can't see that close, and if you can see that or not. So anyway, hopefully you can. Headphones that I compared to this, and I haven't really done any extensive comparing yet. I don't do that in my first impressions video, but I sometimes do a brief comparison just to kind of reset my brain more than anything else, because when I put on a new pair of headphones, my brain can quickly adjust to different tone balances, different sounds, and sometimes I have to reset my brain with something that I know how it sounds for a comparison. And I can give you an example of that. Say I use an EQ on a headphone. Say I boost the bass like 3 decibels. Okay, and I immediately notice that 3 decibels of bass boost. But after I've been listening to it for like a half an hour, I don't really notice it anymore unless I go back and turn the bass boost off. Then I do notice now that it's missing. So anyway, my brain, and I'm sure most of you out there, you kind of, it makes adjustments and compensates for sound. So I like to do a few brief comparisons, and I briefly compared this to the Hifiman HE1000 SE, the Hifiman Aria Organic, and the Kennerton Veneta, which is a planar magnetic headphone from Kennerton that you can see sitting right there. And the main reason I compared this to those three headphones is this headphone is all about bass. This is a planar magnetic headphone from Hifiman that bass heads could really love. Hifiman planar magnetic headphones are not known for having a lot of bass. They run from anywhere from neutral to a little on the bassy side of neutral, but not ever anything that has been where a bass head would want it. And they're not even really that good for EQing. In my opinion, dynamic driver headphones respond to bass boost from an EQ a lot better than planar magnetics do. They will respond a little bit. You can boost a planar magnetic headphone in the bass department, by like 3 to 6 decibels. But anything beyond that, I think they usually start distorting and it just doesn't work that well. Where dynamic driver headphones usually respond better to bass boost than planar magnetics. So anyway, this is a planar magnetic and a dynamic, so you get the detail and speed of a planar magnetic and the ability to produce bass. And no, I haven't tried boosting the bass on this. I haven't tried EQing it, and I might do that before I do my full review. But anyway, so far, everything, my review, my opinions of this are based on no EQ, just running, a straight signal from my DAC and my amp and all that. So, getting into the sound of this. The sound is a little bit strange on this. Usually I describe a headphone as being neutral or maybe a little V-shaped or a little emphasis in the bass. This one's a little more complicated than that. I'm going to have to, the best way to describe the sound of this, the frequency response is sort of a W shape, where it definitely has a bass emphasis, a bass boost. So it starts out, with a pretty good emphasis, then drops off, I would say, into the lower mid-range, drops down a little bit, and like a V-shaped, it has a peak in the treble, but this headphone is different than any other headphone I've listened to before, where it kind of peaks at both ends, drops off, but then has kind of a peak again in the middle, and I would say that's right about where vocals are at. So vocals seem a little more forward, a little more present out of this headphone. And then below the vocals and above the vocals, there's a little bit of a dip. And then, like I said, an emphasis in the bass and an emphasis in the treble. So there's a lot of energy at both ends. And the extension of the bass is very good on this. It goes very low. There's a lot. Definitely sub bass in this headphone, more so than any other Hifiman or any other planar headphone I've heard up to this point. And then the treble also extends very well. This has a lot of energy in the treble. I would say probably on the level of the HE1000 SE. Maybe not quite on the level of the Aria Organic, which is a pretty V-shaped tone balance, but this definitely has some treble energy, and if you're real sensitive to treble, this might not be the headphone for you. There's definitely some energy in the treble, but the selling feature, the big thing about this headphone is bass. This headphone is all about bass. And I'll try to tell you why, I'm normally not a bass head, I don't consider myself a bass head. I do like headphones to have a slight emphasis in the bass, a little bit above neutral. Maybe about 3 or 4 decibels is good for me. This is definitely more than that. to get to the same level of bass with like the Hifiman Aria Organic. And the Hifiman Aria Organic is the most bass heavy of any of Hifiman's higher end headphones, at least the ones I've heard, but I think I've heard most of them. I haven't heard the new unveiled Aria or the unveiled HE1000, but I have heard the unveiled Isvarna. So anyway, the Aria Organic has more bass than the 1000 series headphones, or most of the others more than the Isvarna, and this definitely has more bass, more weight to the bass than the Aria Organic. You would probably have to boost the bass on the Aria Organic about, I'd say probably by 6 decibels to get to the same point as this. And this is doing it without having to boost it, without needing that extra power from your requiring that extra power for your amp to get there. So, and then the HE1000 SE that is more neutral than the Aria Organic, I don't think you could get to the level of bass this puts out with any amount of boost. I think you would end up distorting it and probably eventually blowing out your drivers trying to boost an HE1000 to the point this is in bass. So the bass itself, I would describe both the sub bass and mid bass have a lot of weight to them. This headphone definitely, like I said, this is a headphone that a bass head could love. But the bass is still well controlled and tight. It's not the absolute last word in controlled and tightness, but it's very good. And I'll tell you what, nothing fatigues my ears more than distorted bass. Even super bright treble, even, you know, a cold mid-range, those things will fatigue me after a while, but nothing fatigues me more than muddy, bloated bass, and this headphone does not do that. The bass, like I said, not the absolute last word in control, but pretty good. Very good. I'd say very good. The mid-range in this, I would describe as a little sort of neutral to slightly warmer than neutral. And I found out when I first tried these, I thought the mid-range was a little on the cool side, but I realized after more listening that it wasn't. It's because the vocals are a little bit more forward. It made it sound that way. Also, I think the ear pads, when I first put it on, hadn't really settled in. And when they settle in better and create a better seal, I think it actually warms up the mid-range a little bit. So the mid-range, like I said, slightly on the warm side of neutral, but the vocals are kind of forward in it. The treble is well balanced, not just a narrow little peak at 6,000 hertz like some headphones have, so you can hear the treble or the cymbals. The treble, the entire treble is there. The low end of the treble, I think, is a little lower where it kind of builds up as you get to the higher end of treble, but a lot of sparkle, a lot of energy in the treble. Detail and resolution is excellent on this headphone. I'd put it somewhere up around the level of the HE1000 SE, which is an exceptionally well-detailed headphone, and this is up very close to that. I don't know if it's quite there, but it's very close to the 1000 SE, and I think this actually has a little bit more detail than the Aria Organic. The soundstage on this is a little bit strange, and I think part of it's the round ear cups, but what I noticed with this is that soundstage of this has very good width. I'm hearing things way out to both sides. Really good width to the soundstage, but compared to the egg-shaped ear cups of the Arias or the HE1000, the 1000 SE has a huge soundstage. Not only really wide, but a lot of height. I mean, it goes from way down here to way up here. And it has really good depth. Okay, this has the width of the HE1000 SE, but it doesn't have the height, where the 1000 SE is going from way up here to way down here. This is a little more, less height. I'd say about like this. So I'm hearing the sound more in a plane, you know, instead of like a big circle around me. I'm hearing it definitely a lot of width side to side, but not as much way up here and not as much down here. You kind of hear the limits of it about here and there. So really wide, pretty decent depth, not as much as the 1000 SE though. The imaging on this is very good, very precise. You can locate each instrument other than the fact that you're not hearing things way up above or way down below. They're kind of out in front of you and to the sides. The separation of instruments, also very good on this. And the isolation, which is something you don't get with an open back headphone. I mean, something like the HE1000 SE, the RE Organic, you have no isolation from outside noise coming in, no isolation from inside music getting out. This headphone actually has pretty good isolation, and definitely better than what was it called, the Autovina from Hifiman that came out a couple of years ago. Sort of an attempt at closed back headphones, and the Autovina had some really good traits or features. You know, there was a lot of really good about it, but there was also some things about it that not everyone was crazy about. But this one, I think this is Hifiman's best effort so far at a closed back headphone, and it definitely isolates better than both the Autovina, which had a wooden ear cup but not real thick wood, and the Sundara closed back, which also had a wooden ear cup, and not the best isolation. I mean, they did isolate a little bit, but this one definitely isolates more. If I put these on, they definitely muffle my voice. It definitely quiets things down, and I tried it with air conditioner running, with a fan running, and they definitely do keep a pretty good part of the outside noise out. I mean, not everything, but it does help. It does keep some sound out, and it definitely keeps some sound in. They do leak a little bit of sound, a little bit of the music I'm hearing coming out the vents of the subwoofer, but not a lot. So, but these definitely are going to, people around you aren't going to hear near as much of your music as if you were listening to like an ARIA or an HE1000, something like that, where they can hear it all the way across the room. It's definitely going to be quieter and muffled. So, like I said, the comfort of this, they're slightly heavy at 462 grams, but not that bad. But they have a nice head strap, about the right amount of compression. They don't want to move around on me. I don't have to worry about them falling off if I lean my head or something, but they're not squeezing, causing discomfort. The ear pads are actually very comfortable. So, comfort's good. So, the bottom line, do I like this headphone? Yeah, I do. I really like this headphone. And what I found out is when I first tried this headphone, I tried it with like some acoustic music and some piano music and some of the music that I normally use to review headphones. And it just didn't sound as linear or as perfect or as realistic as the HE1000 SE. So at first but I did notice it just had way more bass. So at first I was kind of, wasn't sure if I liked it or not. But then when I tried this for what it was meant for, I tried this with rock music. I tried it with some pop. I tried it with some electronic. I tried it with some industrial music. This thing is incredible for that type of music. Just to give you an example, the band Rush, that's been around for 40 years now or something. They were around when I think they got started when I was in junior high. Okay, I love old Rush, but for some reason I've just never got into listening to Rush with headphones. And I think the reason why is when I was younger, when I was listening to Rush, I was always listening to them on big speaker systems with a lot of bass. And the best part of Rush, or, a big part of Rush, is that bass guitar and the low end, the kick drums, that sort of thing is a big part of their music. And I just felt like that was missing with a lot of headphones, where this headphone brings out that bass guitar and those bass drums the way I remember hearing them through big speaker systems. And the other night I listened to Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures all the way through, and probably the best I've ever heard Rush sound. Okay, groups like Nine Inch Nails, things that are heavy in bass, electronic music like Kraftwerk, things like that. I love these headphones. They're probably the best I've ever heard for that sort of music. No, they don't have quite the accuracy that, the tone balance of the HE1000 for like acoustic music or piano music. These don't sound as realistic, but for, like I said, a hard driving rock, classic rock, industrial, electronic, these things where you don't need that perfection, to listen to piano notes or acoustic guitars or something. These are incredible, and it's just an incredibly fun headphone to listen to. And I want to get out all my old rock music that just sounded kind of flat and boring with most headphones, and it sounds incredible with this headphone. So that's about it. This is my first impressions. I'll be back in like a month or so with my full review, try to actually compare these to some other headphones, and give you a little more detail, try it with some different amps, see what it synergizes with. But anyway, I'm just going to wrap this up for now. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already to my channel, please do so. In the Headphone Experience on Facebook is up to 37.3 thousand members. Would like to see you all over there. Once again, thanks for watching my video.